Okay, so as the master of the Devil's Tango, one thing I will say is that I've done it in a lot of places. And I know that you guys love the story about how I did it in a sauna. So today I'm going to be telling you guys how I did it in literally the one place that, let's just say, things get really wet. And that is the steam room. But before anything, like usual, make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, means a lot when you guys do. And let's just get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane video. So today's video takes place back when I was in high school. Actually, well, to be honest, I was already out of high school when this happened, but we were close to being in high school. And what I mean by that, it was the summer of grade 12 being over. I remember I was out of high school, I was fresh out of it, and I remember I just wanted to go have fun. And I know many of you guys are out of school right now, so let me just paint the picture a little bit. Me in high school, I never had a plan for my future career. I didn't know what I wanted to be. A lot of people said that I should go into the military like my parents did a lot of the time, and part of me really just wanted to become a YouTuber, but obviously that's a dream that is hard to achieve. So I remember basically I was working part-time construction, and basically just going out and having fun. Since I worked so early in the morning, I had a lot of time after work to basically do whatever I wanted. Like, you guys have no idea how it feels to know that you don't have any homework, no responsibilities, and just go out and have fun. So me, I remember basically what I ended up doing was hanging out with my friends that basically were kind of on the same boat as me for not knowing what they wanted to do in the future. I remember me and the boys, basically is what we're gonna call them, did a lot of crazy things. Like, for example, we'd run away from cops. We would basically, go out and steal signs on the streets. We do a lot of crazy things that were, well, not all legal. But I remember one time when I was just chilling at home, there was an Instagram post posted about a girl in our school who was, I'm not gonna lie to you, the hottest girl in our school, posting that apparently there's gonna be an amazing pool party that is happening that she's hosting for all the grade 12s that has graduated. Now, me knowing this, I obviously wanted to go. I really wanted to go see everyone again from my high school and basically want to, go see what they were doing so I can kind of reflect and see what plans I could do to maybe make my future better. Little did they end up knowing I became a YouTuber, but that's way later in the future. Going on though, I remember basically what I ended up doing was I ended up sending all the boys the Instagram post saying, yo bro, like you gotta check this out. Like seriously, this is insane. We should go to this. And when I sent it to all of them, I remember all of them were freaking out thinking, dude, like I can finally go talk to that girl. Or one of them was like, oh, like, I don't know, like going to go see my ex-girlfriend's gonna be kind of risky. But honestly, I didn't care. Honestly, one thing I realized is that since we were all adults now, we had to throw everything behind us and basically go to this party and have fun. Because what else are we gonna do on a normal Saturday night, right? So I remember on the day of, we all ended up basically going to this girl's house that was basically having a major party. And when we went to that party, I remember it was one of the rich girls in our school. That's why AKA she was super popular. And basically, I remember when all the boys got to her house, we were there pretty early, but still not too early. Like early to the point where all her friends were there of the host of the party, but the boys ended up showing up. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that awkward. And I remember when we were there, we were basically just walking around the house, like checking out the place, because obviously it's a really nice place. And one thing I realized about her place is that she had a sauna, a pool, and also a diving board. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part, I think, that was very interesting, and this is where things get really sus, was a steam room. Now before this, I never actually went inside a steam room. I know like bodybuilders use it just to like, maybe like sweat off some calories or something. I don't really know how a steam room works. All I know is that you go in there with your swim trunks and basically steam out. I have no idea, to be honest. It didn't make any sense to me. So I remember I ended up going up to the chick that owned the place and said, yo, I'm just wondering, like, what does the sauna do? I remember she looked at me like really like kind of like flirtatiously, I will say, and basically ended up telling me, oh, like it's like to like, like just kind of like sweat off, like there's some calories or something like that. I don't really know. My dad likes using it a lot though after the gym. Oh, okay, is what I ended up telling her. And then afterwards, I remember I ended up going up to the boys and I said, yo bro, like I'm gonna try out the steam room after. I remember my buddies all looked at me and they started laughing, and he's like, dude, did you not realize what girl you were talking to? I looked over and I'm like, yeah, that's the girl that owns the place. And then afterwards, I remember I looked again and she was talking to her friends but giggling and pointing at me very, well, sus, if you know what I mean. I remember my buddy ended up grabbing my shoulder and he pulled me in saying, bro, the chick likes you. Wait, what? Why? And then I remember I was asking them, like, why would the girl all of a sudden like me? Like, she was the hottest girl in our high school. But I remember one of the guys ended up telling me how I basically ended up gaining weight and got more muscular. And since I worked construction, I could see how that ended up happening. Because I used to be a lot skinnier back in high school, but not too skinny to the point where I was like anorexic. I don't know. It was pretty interesting. But basically, she said I basically got more attractive. I don't know what that means. I guess puberty hit me like a rock. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I am the hottest guy in the world. I mean, if you guys don't believe me, go check out my Instagram. But still, I mean, it is what it is. Going on from there, though, I remember I was just kind of like, playing along with it, saying, okay, well, I mean, like, we can get a couple drinks out, and I guess, I'll try hitting on her, is what I ended up telling them. And all my friends were basically teasing me about it the whole entire night. Because if you guys don't know, I think all of us have gone through this, where if you like a girl, or for example, a girl likes a guy, your friends end up picking on you about how you should go, like, you know, hang out with them, ask them out, all that weird stuff, and make the situation more bigger than it actually is. So I remember me knowing this. I basically ended up going to the place where there was like all the liquor. By the way, don't underage drink, kids. It's not a good idea, no matter what party you go to. Anyways, like I said earlier, I remember I ended up going up to the pool, and I basically sat down with a bottle of beer, and I just basically started drinking it and relaxing. And little did I know it, basically, the girl that ended up owning the place that apparently liked me ended up sitting right beside me. She sat down beside me, and she had like some kind of weird punch in a glass or something. And she basically ended up telling me, oh my goodness, like, I literally remember you from high school. Like, what are you up to nowadays? Like, you really got bigger, didn't you? And I remember I looked at her, and she was in a swimsuit. So obviously she had some like cherries popping, you know what I'm saying? So me, I looked at her, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, you know, I do construction, you know, same old, just working hard, trying to make that bag, you know? I tried to play it as cool as possible, but then I remember she didn't really care for what I had to say. She literally just kept getting closer and closer to the point where it seemed like we were literally dating. I remember all my friends were sending me Snapchats of photos of us being beside each other, but obviously I wasn't gonna go check my phone because she was literally right beside me, so that would make things even more awkward. So instead of me just sitting there being embarrassed the entire time, I ended up putting my bottle of beer down, and I ended up just jumping into the pool. Like, no joke, I jumped inside the pool. I told the girl to get on my shoulders, and I basically told everyone to jump into the pool unless you're a wuss. They all ended up jumping in, and we ended up playing games like chicken. We ended up playing basketball, and we ended up actually playing a game where we basically decide who would do the coolest dive. It's kind of interesting, actually. I don't know. It's just a game I guess we ended up playing. But then I remember I ended up walking up to my buddy of mine towards like the end of the night, basically, of the party, or the pool party, I guess now it would be called. And basically ended up asking him, yo, bro, like, do you want to hit the sauna? Like, I actually want to try that thing now. Because I remembered I really wanted to try it out earlier. He ended up looking at me saying, dude, like, I don't know how to use that thing. And I ended up telling him, dude, like, how hard can it be? I remember me and him ended up walking up to the steam room, and we basically tried turning it on. But honestly, those things are really complicated to actually work, because there's so many buttons and so many like things you have to do to make sure it's like actually like proper temperature and stuff. So I didn't know how it worked. But then I remember my buddy looked at me and said, yo, bro, I'm gonna get the chick that owns the place. Just give me 1 sec. So he ended up leaving instantly as I'm looking at this thing, and 2 seconds later, the girl that actually ends up owning the place walked up to me. I looked at him, and I saw that he was like kind of far away, and I told him to come, like, you know, come help, but he didn't want to come. It was pretty awkward, and honestly, the way I said that made it sound really sus, but that's not the point. Basically, he didn't come over after, and I was like super awkward and weirded out by why he didn't. But then this girl ended up telling me, oh, like, want to go inside the steam room? Like, I can teach you how to use it and stuff. Here, I'll show you the way to use it. And basically, me and her, we ended up going in the steam room together, and she ended up closing the door on us. It was super awkward, but I remember I ended up just sitting in the steam room, just basically steaming it up, as people would say. And I'm just sweating in there thinking, holy cow, dude. It's like I took a fat hit of a vape and just started dying in here. And basically, the chick that was beside me that owned the steam room basically started laughing. She started laughing and got really flirtatious, and I'm not gonna lie to you, she got to the point where she ended up coming really close to me, and she ended up putting her hand on my thigh. She was gonna do this move earlier, apparently, at the pool, but she couldn't. But since we were alone inside a room that was steaming hot, I guess it was like the perfect opportunity for her. So obviously, I wasn't like gonna be all weird and say no, like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sus, right? Like, you know, I like girls. Like, I'm not gonna complain. So I remember me and her, we ended up basically like cuddling up in there together, and one thing led to another. We ended up basically just doing the devil's tango, because she ended up taking her bikini off. Yeah, so obviously, like, I'm gonna go in, you know what I mean? Like, Bravo 6 going out, you know? It's one of those moments, all right? I remember basically when me and her were doing the devil's tango, I actually found it hard to breathe in there, because it's actually super difficult to breathe heavily in a steam room. And then one thing led to another. I remember basically we heard a knock on the steam room, and apparently it was the girl's dad that owned the place. So I was like freaking out saying, oh shoot. So I basically stood up, put on my pants, and that's literally all I had to do since I had not much on. And the girl literally just had to tie up her bikini top on. That's literally all she had to do. Since we weren't wearing much clothing, we didn't really have much to put on to be fast about, I guess. And then I remember her dad ended up just opening the steam room, and he's like, oh, why is the steam room locked, guys? That's very dangerous. Don't do that. And basically ended up walking away. I remember this girl looked at me, and she ended up giving me her Snapchat instead of me following her on Instagram, and said, here, you know what? Maybe next time we can meet up and go to like my room instead. You know what I mean? Yeah, is what I ended up telling her. All right, so what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story takes place back when I was in high school, and I remember this was one of the most embarrassing but most scariest times of my life. And if you guys saw the title of this story, yes, this is actually a true story. And no, I do not fake my stories. I don't know why this keeps getting spread around. Why would I fake a story about my life if I lived it? Sorry. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember this all takes place back when I was in high school. It was my grade 11 year, and I remember basically basically, me and my friends were all planning on going to the pool. But we weren't going to the pool just because we wanted to. Funny enough, we were going to the pool because a girl the week before ended up coming up to me in class saying, "Hey, Bubba, I was wondering, like, my stepdaddy, like, made me move up to the hills with my mom and her. And, like, my parents got, like, a brand new, like, pool and stuff. And we're having, like, a crazy pool party with, like, a new sauna and everything that was set up there. I was wondering if you want to go because, like, you already know all the girls are gonna be pulling up and stuff. And, like, it'd be cool for you to be there and stuff, if you know what I mean." I remember I looked at her and I told her that I would only go in one condition and I could bring some of the homies along because you already know I'm for the boys. You know what I mean? Not meaning I'm gay. Like, I'm literally just like homies. It's a bro code. You guys will understand eventually. And then I remember basically after that day, she agreed to let the boys come along because her parents were okay with it, which is awesome. And then I remember I went to go on Xbox to tell the boys, and then they all started kind of panicking, freaking out, but at the same time excited. Two of the boys wanted to go. One of the boys were on like a fence about it because they were thinking it was a bad idea. And then one of the guys said no. Apparently the guy said no because apparently a girl that was going there had a boyfriend that really hated one of my guy friends. But honestly, I told him everything was gonna be fine, but he still refused to go. Now, reminder, this girl's boyfriend that hates my friend, he's a very key part of the story, so just remember him, please. Anyways, I remember basically me and all my friends, we ended up getting all dressed up. We all got ready, wore our swimsuits, and drove down to this girl's house. And when I said her stepdaddy was rich, her stepdaddy was loaded. Like, no joke. I remember when we were going into the driveway and parking the car, we saw two Mercedes Benzes in C-Class, and one of them was a Ferrari. Like a brand new Ferrari. I don't know why. I guess I want a stepdaddy. I don't know. And then afterwards, I remember we all ended up going inside the house, and as we were all looking around, being amazed by everything that was there. And then as we were looking around the house, I remember this girl's mom that invited us in the first place ended up coming down the stairs saying, "Oh, you must be some of her friends. Well, she's outside right now in the back of the pool, so just go down this way." We went out there. I remember we basically saw a bunch of girls tanning and all this stuff, and I remember I ended up walking up to one of the girls that invited us in the first place. I walked up to her saying, "Yo, like, I just got here. Yo, nice place. This actually looks awesome." And she started flexing about her daddy and how she, you know, he won like a lottery or something. I have no idea. Just started talking about her daddy. And then afterwards, I remember I ended up standing up and looking around and seeing that this pool party was getting more crowded by the minute. Like, no joke. There was a lot of people coming in. It got to the point where almost 100 people were there. It was actually really nice. And it was a really big house up in the hills, so it could fit all of us really nicely. We all started walking around with our fruit punch because obviously I don't promote underage drinking. And yeah, I basically was just swimming, having a good time. But then out of nowhere, I remember I ended up turning my head once I got out of the water, and I looked around and I saw her. Now, there was one girl in my high school that I was madly in love with, I guess. Like I said in all my videos, I'm a helpless romantic. And I remember I saw a girl that I had a massive crush on, and she ended up showing up at the pool party. And she was in her bikini, showing her massive cherries and massive peach, and going inside the water. And I remember I really wanted to swim up to her and kind of just introduce myself and say hey, hi and all this cool stuff. I remember I didn't want to just walk up to her because obviously that's embarrassing. So I needed to find a way that I could bump into her. Because like I said in my last video of my first crush, for some reason, I'm a really helpless romantic, meaning I like to do things in a weird scenario, in a weird gesture. So I remember I ended up finding the nearest ball that was near me, and I ended up telling my friend, "Yo, throw this towards that direction as hard as you can." He ended up looking at me saying, "Okay, sure, I'll just throw it towards that girl. Not weird at all, sure." And then afterward, he started chucking it over there, and me, I jumped in the water and landed literally on her amazing cherries on purpose. Well, in her eyes, it was an accident, but for me, it was on purpose. She ended up looking at me saying, "Oh my goodness, is this your ball?" And I'm like, "Yeah, those are my balls. I mean, ball, yeah. Thanks. Wait, aren't you like in my class?" And then she looked at me saying, "Oh yeah, like we have the same teacher for science." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like it's cool to see you." I don't know. I basically just made a conversation starter, and it worked. Me and her started talking throughout the day, and we started drinking more punch. YouTube, I'm saying punch, nothing else. And yeah, it was actually a pretty cool time. But then came later on. I remember me and this girl, we were eventually just sitting down on the poolside talking about life and stuff. And then afterwards, for some reason, the girl that invited me to the party decided to invite one of the football players at our school. Except this football player had the same crush as I did and made things really, really awkward for me. Like, no joke, he ended up going to the pool and literally jumping over me as I was sitting on the poolside with this girl and literally said, "Cannonball over a loser," and basically did a cannonball over him. It was kind of impressive, I'll give him that, but it was embarrassing and really dumb. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically he just kept embarrassing me, making fun of me, and he would always just jump into the conversation, not really being a good bro. You know what I mean? Because let's just say this guy did not follow the bro code at all. Because all this guy would do is just eavesdrop in our conversation, join in, make fun of me about the conversation we're having, and then start talking better about himself. himself. It became so annoying to the point where I remember I looked at him saying, dude, no one cares. Who asked? We're Champ Andy. And I walked away. As I walked away though, literally this girl recognized that this guy was being a total doofus. So she ended up standing up and actually following me. And I was headed towards one place where I knew I could relax. And that's a sauna. Now this is where the story gets really scary and the title of the story starts making sense. I remember I ended up going inside the sauna and I started sitting in there going on my phone, just chilling. But then afterwards, out of nowhere, this girl ends up following up behind me saying, hey, like, wait for me. And we ended up sitting in the sauna together. She literally sits in the sauna with me. We start talking and stuff. And one thing led to another. Me and her got pretty romantic. And by this, I mean, yes, she started putting her hand on my thighs, sitting on my lap. And then I ended up getting bricked. And yeah, I think you guys know the rest. I ended up doing the Devil's Tango with her in the sauna. Now, if you guys thought people were going to walk into the sauna, no, not many people enjoyed the sauna in our high school party for some reason. So it was only me and this girl that were in there. And me and her, we were sweating up a storm. Like, it was actually doing really good. We were in there for like almost half an hour. And I looked at her saying, all right, we should probably get out of here. And as I look at the door, I literally see the creepy football player that was super annoying just staring at us doing the Devil's Tango. Now, at this point, I get embarrassed. And I'm like, yo, dude, like, chill. I end up covering my towel. And then what this guy decides to do is lock the door. Yeah, this guy literally locked us in the sauna. And the sauna controls were literally outside of the sauna itself. So I remember I start panicking. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Wait, he locked us in here. I remember this girl starts freaking out, slamming on the door and crying as much as she could. But me, I remember I basically looked at her saying, hey, listen, don't worry. I have an idea. I remember I looked around and I saw the window. There was a window in the sauna so you can kind of like get a cool view of like the back like hills and stuff because it was like on top of the hill so you could like see like a really cool mountain view. And I basically started looking out there and trying to find a way that we could, you know, turn down the temperature. Because, you know, being locked in a sauna is actually really dangerous. And luckily for me, we didn't have the temperature that high up. We only had it at like, I want to say 85 degrees Celsius. And the world record was held back in 2003, funny enough, for only being in a sauna for 16 minutes and 15 seconds. So if you're in there longer than that with a higher temperature, we would have been dead. So me thinking out of the box, I remember I started looking around the sauna. As I was looking around, I realized that I saw a tagline on the heating vents that were, you know, a part of the sauna that really brought the heat into the sauna was built in 2016, meaning that it was a fairly new built machine, meaning that these weren't real rocks or the heating vents weren't actually real heat. I mean, it was real heat, but they weren't real cold rocks like they do back in Japan or anywhere they have saunas. Because most saunas use real coal or real heating. I don't know. It's a weird science, but me being MacGyver, I basically figured out what to do. And I ended up going to the heating vents and finding a plug and unscrewing the plugs and unscrewing the sauna. Meaning I literally took apart a heating vent, basically. That's really how you name it in short terms. I was trying to really sound science and technical there, but I was just making fun of myself, really. But after I unplugged it, I remember basically I ended up looking around and I saw that at the window, the butler was nearby. So I ended up looking at the butler and staring him down. And for some reason, one thing I learned in science class is that when someone's staring at you, you can feel someone staring at you. So this butler ended up looking around, seeing who was staring at him, and he ended up seeing me. He saw me in there, and I remember he ended up looking at the door, being curious of why it was locked, and then coming up to us and opening the door. I remember when that happened, the butler opened the door, the girl ran out of there as fast as she could, saying, oh my goodness, that was so scary. And she started freaking out, panicking, and leaving. And as for me, I just walked out of there normally, and the butler looked at me saying, oh, you were right, sir. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks, man. And I ended up leaving, getting my car, because I was dry as hell, getting as much air as I can in my body, and basically leaving to go home. Now, by any means, I'm not claustrophobic or anything like really in terms of not being able to stay in concealed spaces. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I always would like, you know, cover myself up in a blanket and sleep. And like, I mean, full on covered. And yeah, it would be hard to breathe once in a blue moon. But at the same time, though, for some reason, I actually like semi-enjoy just being in small spaces. But today's story is actually a time where I actually did not like being in the small space. And well, even though it wasn't as small, it was really concerning. And the way the story goes is outstanding. And you guys will want to watch to the end because trust me, you don't want to miss this. And on top of that, only 78% of you guys are actually subscribed to the channel compared to the 21% that actually are. So consider those 21% actually superior and always going to be able to get the Devil's Tango because they subscribed, and so should you. Now let's get straight to the story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So this one actually takes place back when I was in high school. Now if you guys don't know, basically back in high school there was this one chick in my school who was always like, well, let's say rich in a way. She was actually like wealthy rich, and I'm not saying this in terms of like, you know, I was a gold digger in this circumstance, but in a way, like she had money. She would walk into school with like, you know, a really nice car and kind of just flex her way into anything she wanted. Hell, sometimes she would bring up to teachers how her daddy could literally buy her out. Like I don't know what that means, but like cool. And of course me, you know, I'm just that basic kid that really didn't have like anything special going for him. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a nice sports car, and don't get me wrong, as well as when I want to look charming, like, I can do it. So one time I remember, like, I walked into class looking all good and stuff, and I generally didn't look ugly. Like, in a way, I actually looked good. And on top of that, I just want to say, and this is a hard fact for all of us that all of us can agree, when all of us go shopping, the next day we always wear the outfit to school. Like, there's no way and no way how you guys don't wear the newest outfit that you guys recently just bought the next day when you just got it, because, yeah, I don't know, it makes us feel nice and shows people that we actually have money to buy new clothes. Anyways, like I was saying though, so this girl, she was, you know, in my class, and she was just, you know, taking a seat, you know, getting ready for class. I think it was our socials class. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Like, I don't really keep track of my socials classes or any class to being matter, because, well, I don't care enough for school, let's be real here. But I remember she sat down and we were just like looking around and stuff, and I remember I kept looking at her how do I put this, peach. I kept looking at her peach and, you know, working on my work, and then looking at my teacher, and I just kept getting distracted. Now, reminder, I was a really active high schooler. I think that's the best way to put it. I know it sounds really weird saying that, but like at the same time though, you know, at first when I was like, you know, trying to be like, just don't look, like whatever, it was easy. But at the same time though, for some reason, she kept looking back at me as well, and she looked at me and she knew I was looking right at her peach, and she like kind of like started like going off the side of the seat to the point where she was like spread it. You know, it sounds weird to put it in a video context, but you guys get what I mean. And at that point I knew like she was like semi interested in me, and I guess the new shirt I got from H&M actually worked out. Please sponsor me. I get the ladies from it and do the devil's tango. Anyway, sorry, back to what I was saying. So me and her, we started like kind of like talking when, you know, we were at that part of class where you usually have free time to just do whatever the heck you want. And she kind of walked over to me and sat down with me, and, you know, she was explaining this cool like pool that her daddy got recently. I don't know why I said daddy, but, you know, just deal with it. And she wanted me to come over and check out her new pool. Now me, I don't care enough for pools, don't get me wrong. Like, hell, I can't really swim the best. Like, I can swim, don't get me wrong, I can swim if I really need to, but in reality I can't swim that well. But she invited me over. You know, she said she was bringing some friends maybe, and at that point when she said she was bringing other people, I'm like, sure, why not? So obviously, you know, I went home, I, you know, got my things, I drove over to her house with my amazing Silica. I missed that car to death, by the way. And when I got there, I remember I walked straight to the backyard and her dad was there. Her rich dad. Like, think of like meeting like a really just like comb backed, like rich old dude that like you see in like those sugar mama shows. Yeah, like he was one of those guys. And, you know, don't get me wrong, her daughter was semi hot, I guess, but their house was like massive and it was crazy. I remember when I walked back there, he looked at me instantly and was like, huh, okay, and just walked inside. Like, he didn't even like want me to introduce myself, which, I mean, fair enough. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really look like, you know, I was rich in any way, shape, or form. Like, maybe if I had a Jaguar or something, maybe he'd be like, oh, like, look at this guy. But I don't know, whatever. So yeah, I remember we got to the pool and we started talking. She had these two long seats. We started laying down and kind of just started talking about like school and how dumb and stuff it was. But the main thing she kept talking about was how every girl's outfit was literally like cheap. And I talked about literally Super Mario Brothers. Like, I don't get it. Like, it was clear we had differences. Okay, it was very clear me and her had a lot of differences. But then I don't know what started happening. You know, even though we weren't having the best conversation, me and her got closer and closer, and, you know, one minute we were making out left and right, and then she told me, hey, like, you want to go inside the pool house? Now at this point I was kind of worried because I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I never entered a pool house ever until that day. So I remember me and her, you know, she started like grabbing my wrist and walked me over there, and we got inside. When we got inside, she was kind of like, you know, leaning on me, and of course one thing led to another, and we did the devil's tango. And, you know, that went on for like, I want to say half an hour. But let's just say things got too quiet outside to the point where the rich daddy, we would say, came out to the pool and saw no one was there. So what ended up happening was that she started panicking, and she's like, oh, like, let me come out of here and then I'll just say you left early. At first I was kind of iffy because I still had my car in her front yard, but I guess, like, you know, it's not like he was gonna notice because apparently he worked from home. So she went out and she said, oh, like, Baba left early, like he was like had to go early, and he left his car here because he said like he didn't feel well enough to drive. Like, bruh, what? I wasn't drinking. Like, I didn't do anything, but I guess she just kind of made that excuse so my car would be there. And of course the dad was fine with it, but then he saw the pool house unlocked and he walked over there and locked it. He literally locked the pool house when I was in it. Like, and I'm not talking like, you know, key lock. Like, I'm talking full on lock. And at that point I was stuck in there. I didn't know what to do. It was getting dark, and, you know, I'm not even gonna lie, I think I was stuck in there for like 3 hours watching Jacksepticeye until I eventually realized that, like, I need to get out of here. My phone phone was gonna die, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I remember like calling my mom, and my mom's like, oh, where are you? Yeah, this is a situation I don't really want to explain to my mom. So I remember I just hung up and I called my buddy. I called my buddy Jer, and Jer was like, yo, like, what's going on? I told Jer how I was stuck in the rich girl's pool house, and I'm not gonna lie, Jer was kind of just laughing the whole entire time. So I remember he snuck over and literally jumped the fence into the backyard, and he brought like these bolt cutters, cut me out, and basically I got out of there. I remember I ran up to my car and I instantly just turned on my car, and my car, like, when I turned it on, it made like somewhat of a loud noise. And I remember just seeing her dad of the rich girl just like looking outside the window, seeing me come out of his backyard and into his car. And let's just say I looked over, I looked back at the road, and I booted it. Like, I left there, dude. Like, I did not want to stay there any longer than I should have. And long story short, you know, even though I ended up doing the devil's tango and me and her weren't really the best, all I'm gonna say is stay away from pool houses or things that could actually get locked, really, with like actual locks. Because trust me, you don't want to be in a concealed space like that. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for the video. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for listening to this whole story. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for all the support. I promise I'll be on here more, posting more stories. But like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace.